All right, StrongIsland.com. It is Wednesday, 8 o'clock, and I am Bobby L.A. Serra, and
I'm Jimi LaLumia.
Jimi LaLumia, and you are watching Strong Island Scene.
The latest
and
edition.
The greatest.
Yes, exactly. Bringing you all the inside situations on the current state of the industry, entertainment business. How have you been, Bob? How has your month gone thus
I
far?
have been extremely busy. That's all I can say. Busy, and everything is all good, and I'm just thankful that I can do what I love every day.
I was a bit irreverent at the beginning of our last show. I don't know what struck me. Maybe it was having some folks in the studio
Yeah,
audience.
you got all riled up when
we were
the
dealing
audience
with
came in.
the late Don Cornelius and the late Etta James, and I think I rectified it. I didn't, We need to be a little irreverent from time to time because that's really my true nature. But we have some new dead people to talk about since last time. It's like the latest thing. I think 2012 is the year of the dead. So in addition to Don Cornelius and Etta James, we're going to talk a little bit about some folks who have passed away under varying circumstances. First of all, when I had the record connection in Ronkonkoma years ago, one of the biggest stars breaking at the same time, 1987, she had already broken, was, of course, Whitney Houston. And now she's really broken. It's a long, sad saga. What are your thoughts on the whole Whitney Houston debacle?
Oh, I think it's really sad. I wish she would have never gotten involved with Bobby Brown. Once she got into all those drugs and stuff, she just could never get out of it. I think it's a shame. I feel bad for her daughter, Bobby Christina.
Me too.
Bobby Brown will go on as he would be expected to. I mean, I'm sure he's upset, but he's going to live his life. Watch. And she's not living anymore.
I know. But her heart will go on and on.
Isn't that Celine Dion?
No, okay, all right. Maybe next month. But I mean, Whitney, I don't know. Should we really get into the meat of this, or should we just kind of skim the surface of my various theories about Whitney?
All
right, we'll get into it.
Go ahead.
I think Whitney Houston was a lesbian.
Oh, my God. You think so?
Yes. I think she came from a very strong Baptist or whatever religious background. Her mom, Sissy Houston, is a well-respected... It's just my opinion. It's not meant to slur or defile her because some of my best friends are lesbians, and I don't think in this day and age in 2012, with Ellen DeGeneres hosting a fabulous TV show and Rosie O'Donnell having done the same, and lots of actresses coming out, and it's not a really big secret about Lindsay Lohan and her gal pal... the DJ. What's the DJ's name again? Her brother is...
I forgot that girl.
Ronson. Somebody Ronson. Ronson Leiter, whatever her name is. But Whitney, at the beginning, had a very good friend, a sidekick, constantly almost attached to her side name, Robin. In the same way that Oprah Winfrey had her Gail King, which they still actually are around. And it seemed that during the period of time that Robin was in the picture, that Whitney was fine. She was in the business. She was in the groove. She was performing. She was recording. There were no problems. There was nothing. And then the rumor mill, because it was the late 80s, it was the early 90s, and things were not quite as progressive in the coming out situation in the world. And the stories were making the rounds that Whitney's mom told her to get rid of Robin. This is not something I'm making up. It's in features, it's on the internet, that Robin would ruin her career, the constant. There was not a man in Whitney's life in the early 80s. There was not a husband. There was not a boyfriend. There was not a significant other. There was just Robin, Robin, Robin. And when the rumor mills really started pounding on Whitney's personal preferences, not preferences. If you're born a lesbian, it's not you prefer. Most people would not prefer to be gay. I don't think. I mean, you are who you are. You accept it. But the whole preference thing, I mean, I don't think a straight person can wake up in the morning and prefer to suddenly be gay because they already know what they're oriented towards, and that's it.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, Robin was out of the picture, and it seemed like within mere moments, Whitney was married to one of the, in my opinion, worst possible choices that she could ever make, but what to the R&B audience looked like a real solid marriage, which is Bobby Brown, the bad boy of R&B, the bad boy of pop music, who already had quite a history. And from that moment on, it seemed like things were going all downhill.
Mm-hmm. And not just you thought that. I think everybody thought that. And I remember at the time, and I said the same thing, and everybody was saying the same thing. What is she doing with that guy?
I feel like a mummy. I'm like way out of it. I'm just getting over a stomach thing, so I'm not quite as animated as I normally am.
Well, don't puke on anything.
I would never. Although it might be good for the ratings, so is this stuff cleanable? But anyway, I really think that she was coerced into getting married. I don't know if it was the mother. I don't know if it was Clive Davis, who's another whole story that we're not going to go into, at Arista Records, who discovered her and primed her and did the whole deal. But I really do think that, in my opinion, it's always been a suspicion of mine. I also think it's pretty interesting that Robin has not surfaced during the demise, the death. I haven't heard anything about her making a statement or appearing anywhere or attending the funeral, as though she was just shut out of existence. And I mean, it's okay now. Write a book, girl. Tell the world, embrace who you are. Don't become a junkie because whatever the case may be. And it's all theory. It's in my opinion. It's a supposition that I have made. I cannot substantiate it. I just think that if we look at the chronological history of the Whitney Houston story, of which Robin was a very visible part, and then suddenly Robin was not a very visible part, and from the moment that she wasn't, and the Bobby Brown circumstance came about, that things took a decided turn.
All right, so what are you implying?
I'm implying that Whitney Houston was coerced into a marriage of convenience, which is called a beard. Have you ever heard that term?
Yes, I have.
A beard is gay men or lesbian women that were in business or wanted to protect their jobs or protect their status, or what would the neighbors say, or my parents aren't happy, blah, 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 will force themselves, they will induce themselves into a particular regular straight marriage because it looks good. It looks good on paper. There's even rumors about George Clooney, for goodness sakes, which he says he doesn't deny. He says if people want to think that, he's very casual about it, which is probably the best way to be. But I really do think that she might be the victim of inherent homophobia in a very, very, very gay business, which the entertainment business is, which draws a lot of people who come from the land of fantasy and magic, because that's where they feel they can be themselves and where they can really let loose and they can really be who they are. It's the nature of the entertainment business to indulge in fabulousness and just everything, Right, and it was just terrible. Her records became terrible. Her performances became tragic. The TV show that they did together, where she said, "Where's my teeth at?" I guess she had dentures at a certain point from, I don't know, the drug abuse or what have you. I'd never watched Being Bobby Brown was the name of the show, correct? I think that was the name of the show.
I never watched it.
Was it on VH1 or was it on one of the Lifetime channels or Bravo or A&E or whoever that all jump on board these things? Mm-hmm. But I remember someone making a reference either online or in a magazine that at one point she said, "Where's my teeth at?" So I guess all the abuse and the drugs and everything that entered the picture did away with among other things, her teeth, her gums, which is not good for your health either.
So, are you saying that because she was a
lesbian,
and she was forced not to be a lesbian?
That
led to her downfall.
Break it up, lesbians.
She got into drugs because she couldn't be the lesbian she wanted to be.
Bumping pussies is against jailhouse rules. That's a little bow to John Waters' female trouble. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know. What can I tell you? It's a rough business, kids, this show business, you know? It really is. It really is. Come out from the start like Adam Lambert did. Adam Lambert is now the lead singer for Queen. It looks like it's going to happen. And during the whole period of American Idol, photos were surfacing of him, and he was like, yeah, so? Like Eminem in 8 Mile. You know, lay it all out. So what else you got? You know, what else are you going to say? But some people are just not that, and especially if they're affected by family and this religious background. And again, I do not know with certainty, nor am I stating with certainty for any legal potential ramifications. But in my opinion, I think Whitney Houston was a victim of homophobia in much the same way I have similar thoughts about that with Oprah, as I mentioned, and Gayle King, and that's been an ongoing thing as well. And Stedman, who is this, if ever there was a beard there was, Stedman, there was the beard that was.
Yeah, he's an odd character.
He's an odd character, and you've never seen them in a loving embrace or any kind of coming out of a hotel together at midnight or frolicking in the surf somewhere.
He's like the bitch at home.
It's always Oprah and Gayle and Oprah and Gayle, and Oprah and Gayle had a fight, and Oprah and Gayle went shopping, and Oprah and Gayle, God knows what they did, and who forgot the lube and what have you. And I don't know. Just come on out, kids. The water's fine. It's a shame. I liked Whitney Houston a lot. I thought she was. It was not, you know, the 80s sounds of a lot of the records, like how. Why are you laughing about a deceased lesbian? I mean, a purported deceased.
I am a straight male heterosexual guy thrust into the conversation about lesbians and gays coming out, and I looked over at the screen and I saw myself grabbing my head,
and you see my hands flapping around in the breeze,
and it said it all. If I could have just
very John Wayne today.
If I could have just snapped that picture,
John Wayne LaLumia over here.
All right, go ahead.
It's not funny. The girl's gone.
Yeah.
The big bad girl is gone. But it is terrible. Her final performances, and the really sad thing is when we talked a while ago about the X Factor and the millions of dollars contract and how that turns out to be advances towards video and towards the next album sales, if the next album sells or not, and studio time and all this sort of thing. And the talk now is that the Whitney Houston estate is broke, that she was living on advances from the new album, which did not sell, which did not produce a hit. And, you know, yes, there is a flurry of activity on iTunes, which was to be expected, just as happened with Michael Jackson. When Michael Jackson passed away, that the sales, unfortunately, though, for those of you who don't really know how the music industry works, the money is in publishing, which is the song writing, and Michael Jackson wrote a lot of his material, if not almost all of his material, and even the material that he didn't write, I think he kind of forced them to put his name on, like Dick Clark used to do in the 1950s. Did you know about that? We'll touch on that later.
No, but I also know that Michael Jackson purchased the Beatles catalog.
Right.
At one point, too.
Right. Well, that's even if that didn't exist, though, just as an artist and what happens afterwards if you die and your sales explode, there is an artist royalty that is paid, but the real money is in the publishing and in the writing. And unlike Michael Jackson or Kurt Cobain, Whitney Houston was not a songwriter. She was a song performer, and she would get paid to record the albums, and then she would get paid to go out and play big, big venues and make a lot of money touring, which obviously you cannot do when you're deceased. So someone's commenting on here. Oprah, a lesbian. I see in our
No,
chat.
that's me.
That's you. Okay,
trying
I'm
to
sorry.
stir it up. I'm kind of
okay.
just like.
Alrighty. But I'm not saying that she is. I'm just saying that if it smells like fish, it's fish. Where there's smoke, there's bad comparison there. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think the situation for the Houston estate is rather dire since she has expired. How's that for throwing it down?
Not bad. All right. Who else you got? Let's move on.
All right, we're going to move on from poor Whitney. Davey Jones from the Monkees.
Davey Jones. Now
to my knowledge, was not a lesbian.
Davey Jones.
Although sometimes he looked like one in the 1960s with that Anne Murray hairdo. And they were were you a Monkees fan? Was that
I happened to grow up a Monkees fan. That was my age when did they, what was it, around
1966.
It was really? Oh, okay. So maybe, you know what's funny? Maybe I was catching the reruns because I remember watching it maybe when I was...
in the 80s
10,
they became
12.
stars again thanks to MTV. MTV, for some reason, started showing the Monkees, and they toured, and Vance on Long Island, Vance Brescia, I think is his last name, great talented songwriter. He was in a band called the Mosquitoes, and he co-wrote a song, or I think he actually just wrote the entire song. That was Then, This Is Now, which became a top 20 hit for the Monkees and was included on a Best Of album, which was released to cash in on the MTV exposure. But they really were forerunners of MTV. And you're a fan of all the guys in the band? Can you name all the guys that were in the band?
Just Mickey, Peter.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I can't. You can give me a hint.
Mickey Dolenz and Peter Tork.
Okay, and give me a
Davey
hint.
Jones, and the creator of MTV, Michael Nesmith.
Oh my God! I did not know that he was the creator of MTV.
A lot of people don't know because he was indirectly the creator of MTV, and the Monkees TV show was indirectly the creator of MTV because prior to that, you did not have anything like that. They were a manufactured group, just like Jersey Shore, what have you. They didn't come together organically the way a group comes together as musicians jamming in a garage, or the Motown groups meeting on the street and saying, I'm a singer, you're a singer, let's go.
Weren't they specifically put together by the TV
They were.
station?
They answered an actor's call in the back of Variety or Hollywood Reporter or one of the backstage type of publications, and it was put together. They were looking to capitalize on
the Beatles.
Beatlemania.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And the guys who did it, the TV show was like one long extended music video. There was a little razzmatazz at the beginning, which led to a music video for the latest single, which would then go up the chart just like MTV. Now, Michael Nesmith left the group. He was kind of like the cerebral one, the heavy thinker. He also invented Whiteout and made a fortune. I believe it was Whiteout. But in addition to inventing Whiteout, or being in on the ground floor of that, which made him a tremendous amount of money, he started something at the end of the 70s. They were toying around with these late-night video shows. I'm just reading the book right now called I Want My MTV, which is written by the guys that were in on the, or interviews with the guys, rather, that were in on the ground floor of the first 10 years of MTV, when nobody thought MTV was going to be successful, when all of the networks and cable operators decided nobody's ever going to want to watch a music film and then another music film. Who's going to want to watch that? And Nesmith, I guess from his previous experience of being one of the Monkees and seeing how that worked, actually started early versions. They had something called, I can't think of the name of it. It was on NBC after Saturday Night Live. It was called, I can't think now. Video Jukebox or Hot Tracks, New York Hot Tracks, something to that effect, which was things like Rupert Holmes with Pina Colada Song and things that were out at that time. Debbie Boone, You Light Up My Life, the horrendous state of the U.S. pop charts at that time when everything had turned to mush. the initial format was first put together by Michael Nesmith and then was thrown around by the guys who came up with the idea that it would be cheap programming to gather together these music films that the labels would make for their artists that never got seen. They were used primarily for overseas television to attract an audience without shipping a band over there, like Blondie would do that. They had a big following in Australia and places like that with some of the early records before they really took off. And rather than all the expense of going over there, they would send the films over. So Nesmith was the early architect of packaging music video and making it available for the public to see, which eventually turned into the early MTV, which nobody wanted. Cable did not want. The whole I Want My MTV came about from the advertising campaign where they tried to get viewers to see the commercials of Mick Jagger or Sting or Billy Idol saying, demand your MTV. I want, that was the only way they could really get it on the air. But anyone who was a historian would know that the Monkees TV show was a forerunner of that and actually paved the way for what would become music television. So Michael Nesmith was offered the opportunity of being in on the ground floor of MTV, and he said, no, not interested. After coming up with the whole concept and the whole format, he just walked away from it. He could have had a big chunk of that, a big piece of that. And he got his payback anyway, as I said, because by the late 80s, the Monkees became stars again. When MTV started showing all the old episodes, the boys got to tour. Nesmith did not go out on the tour. He became very hermitish. He really did not want to be associated with it. But Davey Jones was the first visibly manufactured pop idol, because most pop idols are manufactured, but this was a celebration of the artificiality of it all, of really manufacturing someone and not make them believe that it all came together the way we like to think that groups come together and then, wow, they found success and they worked so hard for it. It held up the veil of how things are really done. They had some great tunes. Yeah. They have made their way onto the chart, which seems to be the thing these days. There's Adele and Dead People battling for the top of the charts, and that just seems to be now if Adele were to die, she'd be a double threat, but we don't really don't want that to happen.
No, so listen, back to the Monkees. The TV series aired from 66 to 68, so it wasn't on that long.
It was not on that long.
That just goes to show you, because 66 I was not even born yet.
Right.
And I remember I wasn't a teenager. I was younger than a teenager, so I was probably like 8, 9, 10,
I was a teenager.
11
right.
years
I was
old.
a teenager. And
It said it later played for many years in reruns. So I was catching the reruns. I missed the initial series, but as a young kid, it was on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I came home from school.
Right, that makes sense. And like I said, for the 80s kids, they had it on their MTV, which
there you go.
Was actually a byproduct of Mike Nesmith in the first place. And I used to get 16 magazine every month, and the Monkees were really the height of the teen magazine fad. People like to think it was the Beatles, but it was actually the Monkees that really brought 16, which was now their competitor is still around, Tiger Beat, which was the West Coast version of the teen mags, before Rolling Stone and before serious rock magazines that did 12-page reviews of an album, before it got all heavy and rock critic heavy. The late Gloria Stavers, who really introduced me to the business and kind of was a mentoress to me in an abbreviated way. She was very kind and welcoming to me when I was very young. And she was a very, very powerful person in the music industry. And she really helped the Monkees explode into, by having that monthly magazine before there was the internet, and when the teen magazines would sell 1 million copies every month. And then the pass-around factor, the friends would look at it, primarily females, with the pass-around factor, 4 million people would be looking at those magazines, and it would influence what movies they went to see. It's the real corporate birth of pop culture that we talk about every month. So God bless Gloria Stavers and Davey Jones. I mean, I don't think he went out painfully. I don't think it was unexpected. He was grooming his horses in Florida. He was preparing to go on tour with David Cassidy from the Partridge Family, who was basically his successor as the Monkees were peaking off. It was a guy named Bobby Sherman, which is probably also before your time, and David Cassidy with the Partridge Family. So that's your pop lineage thing. And unfortunately, you know, people are passing away. It's part of life, you know. It happens. Also, old-timers making noise. Van Halen are back. And living proof that you can hate the hell out of the people you work with and really not even want to look at them and still go into the studio, make an album, go on tour, make noise, and have some level of success, even though they're not getting a tremendous amount of radio airplay. And I thought it was really, really interesting because Van Halen was around during the period of time that rock was over here and R&B and soul music was over there, and never the twain would meet. And you know who their opening act was on this tour?
Who?
David Lee Roth went backstage to a show and invited Kool and the Gang. And Kool and the Gang have been the opening act for the Van Halen tour, which I think is really,
weird,
really interesting. And David Lee Roth's reasoning was, in the 80s, we were the rock party band, and you guys were the R&B party band. So if we both go out and do our party thing, it's going to be one big party. And the guys in Kool and the Gang said, let's do it. And so they've been touring. And I think that a lot of people really
How's it working?
Huh?
Is it working?
Yeah, they're touring. The Van Halen record is selling. They're playing big venues throughout the country. They're not getting a lot of attention and a lot of airplay. And I think part of the reason is all these people dying and you know, getting on the charts and sucking up all the air right now. Obviously, that wasn't intentional.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. So, but, you know, welcome back, Van Halen. There's proof that life begins at 60, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The ghosts.
And also, I always love the combat, you know, Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth. It's rather legendary how much they despise each other.
Yeah.
And
I thought David Lee Roth was their best singer, though.
He's a great front man. He was a bit much. And in that MTV book that I'm reading, they talk about the early days and how he kind of distanced himself, very Motown style, very like Diana Ross over here and the Supremes over there. And they just had a Unsung special on David Ruffin. Unsung is a monthly show, which I heartily recommend. It's on a channel called TV One, which is a mostly African-American channel with a lot of African-American programming. Mm-hmm. And unsung means someone who made noise but did not get the attention, the ongoing attention they deserve. And David Ruffin was the original lead singer of The Temptations, which if you saw the movie on VH1, which is very popular on VH1, between the Jacksons movie that they show all the time and the Temptations movie that they show all the time, a lot of people are aware of David Ruffin, but this really got into the real crack house, dirt, nastiness of it all, and also how he desired for the group to become David Ruffin and the Temptations, which just was not going to happen, and how the rest of the group would travel in a bus, and he insisted on traveling separately in a limousine, which is not always the best way to maintain harmony in a musical group. So, you know, in the case of Van Halen, that just kind of brings that around. Well, now, also, interestingly, tying this all together, because everything in pop culture seems to be related with the odd coupling of Van Halen touring with Kool and the Gang. When the Monkees played New York, do you know who their opening act was? Do you know the legendary story of who their opening act was that actually got booted from the tour?
I do not know.
Because parents were very upset.
No.
A brand new guy in 1967 that had been signed to Reprise Records and had been making noise in England. Jimi Hendrix.
Yep, I had a feeling.
Jimi Hendrix Experience.
I think I read this somewhere.
Opened for the Monkees. And the moms were there with their kids to hear I'm a Believer. And they trotted Hendrix out as I don't know whose idea that was. I think all the guys in the band were hipper. And they wanted to show how hip they were because the Monkees were constantly being attacked by the by 67, 68, Rolling Stone and a lot of rock press started appearing and saying bubblegum is horrible and we want progressive, rock operas, and anything that's pop is horrible and should be destroyed. So I think the Monkees went out of their way to try and show, look how hip we are. We've got Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
Before anyone really was familiar with him when the first album was just making the rounds. But I think the Daughters of the American Revolution or some kind of organization didn't want the kids because he was doing the whole guitar as a phallic symbol between his leg thing, and the type of material he was doing was really not foxy lady.
Yeah, he was pretty.
Let me stand next to your fire, kind of thing. So that's the small world thing, the Monkees and Jimi Hendrix experience, and right up to Van Halen and Kool and the Gang. These interesting pairings that really don't seem to make much sense become legendary pairings. So maybe that will be legendary.
So just to reflect on Van Halen, 1984, when they came out with the album 1984, I was in 11th grade, and they performed at Madison Square Garden. And I saw that concert. It was the first night at Madison Square Garden. It was absolutely incredible. I even took I split a hit of acid with this girl, and we went to the show.
Wow. Hippie. In 1984, you were how old?
I was, I guess, 17.
Oh, okay. And you were still in high school.
Yeah, I was still in high school.
In 1984, I was recovering my 5th year from Jimmy LaLumia and the Psychotic Frogs having broken up, and I was just coming out of a heavy, absolute vodka fixation. So I was a little bit ahead of the curve. I saw my first shows, I guess, in the 1960s. So I was a little bit ahead of the curve there. But I must confess, I was never really a big Van Halen fan.
You know what? It was at that time they were big, and like I said, being 16 17 years old.
That was the hip thing. Right.
That concert was phenomenal.
Yes.
Absolutely phenomenal.
And MTV was in full swing.
It was a big time.
And they were MTV at that point. In fact, I keep referring back to this book, I Want My MTV, but an interesting story in there. One of the very first contests, the very first real big contest that MTV had was Be a Roadie for Van Halen. And they got over 1 million postcards. That's when MTV was just starting to really penetrate. They got over 1 million postcards, and this kid won. They took him on tour. They let the roadies party with him. He was partying with Van Halen. They had him doing all kinds of shots, all kinds of cocaine, all kinds of drugs. Totally fucking this kid up. Then he's having convulsions in his room, and they find out that this kid had all kinds of problems, including having a metal plate in his head, and that he was on Dilantin and all of these, which nobody bothered.
So this kid won the contest.
Never bothered to tell them
he had all these issues, these medical issues.
That he had a metal plate in his head. He was on Dilantin. He really didn't want to screw up his chances to win. This kid almost died. They had a 24-hour vigil with this kid in the hotel room after his friend, who brought him along, said, by the way, my friend has all these cerebral issues and the metal plate in his head, and he's on all these different drugs that are not supposed to have alcohol. After they pumped him for like 24 hours with everything. So I thought that was... You didn't hear that story on MTV. Wow. You just heard people really win on MTV, which was interesting.
That's funny.
But that would have been some interesting headlines. The good old days of MTV. Right, but no, Van Halen was not my thing. When they first hit in 1977, what was their first big hit single?
I really don't know, because it
was not a gigantic hit single, but it was a top 40 hit single in 1977, which was a cover version of a 1960s. You're trying to look it up now. Cheating. You want me to tell you?
Oh, you know it?
Of course I know.
I thought you were asking me.
It was by the Kinks. It was called You Really Got Me.
You Really Got Me, okay.
Which was a 60s song. And I liked that.
Yeah, that was good.
And I liked a couple of things on the album. But I was falling under the influence of punk rock at that period of time. And so Van Halen and those type of arena corporate rock things were just the antithesis, look that word up, of what I was reacting to. I was all about Sex Pistols and The Clash and The Damned and Johnny Thunders and The Heartbreakers and Wayne County and the Electric Chairs, and I really did not want to know about all these corporate rock guys. Speaking of deaths And since we're on this,
Yeah, we've been on death for 35 minutes.
and I'm now in this 1977 Warner Brothers head because Van Halen was on Warner Brothers, we also would like to acknowledge the passing of a very talented guitarist named Ronnie Montrose, who had a band called Montrose, which Sammy Hagar in the Small World department was the lead singer of, who then, of course, went on to become the lead singer of Van Halen when David Lee Roth got the boot in one of his calamitous battles with Edward Van Halen. But the Montrose album, the first side of that album, a bunch of songs like Rock the Nation, Bad Motor Scooter, that I really, really liked. And Ronnie Montrose is one of those unsung guys, similar to what the R&B station is doing. Really worth checking out if you're into the rock. And speaking of punk, the Sex Pistols are making money again because their catalog has just been acquired by UMG, which is Universal Music Group, which is one of the few labels that are actually left now, as all of the labels have absorbed each other up bit by bit. They're about to reissue Never Mind the Bollocks, Here Come the Sex Pistols. And they're about to tour again. So Johnny Rotten keeps alternating between Public Image Limited, which was his group after, and I guess whenever it's time to pay the rent or pay the bills, what's left of the Sex Pistols. Sid Vicious, of course, is no longer part of the program. He was playing Max's Kansas City. When I was playing Max's Kansas City, by the way, Mr. Serra, you did a wonderful job on the Jimmy LaLumia and the Psychotic Frogs 2.0 live at Max's Kansas City CD, which we have a few copies of here right now. Am I not showing it exactly where it should be shown? Get it closer there. It's already up and running on Amazon.com and on iTunes. And it's really a distillation of the punk album that I put out during the Death to Disco period, when that was the single that really put us on the underground map and got us national and international press, some TV appearances with Don Imus and that sort of thing. But that's physical product that will be coming shortly on Strong Island Rocks, one of the many labels that Mr. LaSerra has at his beck and call here in the Strong Island universe and empire. Mm-hmm. So Sex Pistols back in 2012. Psychotic Frogs maybe back. I don't know if I'm going to be emceeing a 40th anniversary of the New York rock scene in June at Bowery Electric. It's going to be a Max's Kansas City reunion, 4 or 5 days stretched out in the middle of June. We'll have more information on the next show, which we did about 2 years ago, just short of 2 years ago. And there's talk of that. But we'll bring you up to date on that. We're all over the map now with all of this. And in our ongoing Dead People Think Sid Vicious is still dead. iPad. Do you own an iPad?
No, I don't.
Do you have...
I do not have a tablet.
Yeah. Do you have a Maxi Pad?
I have computers. I have a Maxi Pad in my bathroom.
I don't
right
need
now.
one, but...
I don't know how it got there.
Yeah, okay. Well, these things happen. I'm not iPad, iPhone. I'm a BlackBerry guy still, but iPad 3 is about to come out, and they're making a big deal out of it. So those of you who are into that sort of thing and haven't heard about it, iPad coming soon to a theater near you. I think I'm going to go out and get one. I really should get one. I should get a laptop, which this is not mine. I still do not have a laptop. I still DJ with CDs. When we do things like the Ohika Castle gig that we just did, we'll be talking more about that one way or the other in the next episode. And also at the Bunkhouse 2.0. Everything is 2.0.
Why aren't we talking about the Ohika Castle now?
Well, it was a very nice gig. It was wonderful. I got to meet John Jellybean Benitez. And for the time being, that's really all I'm going to say about that gig. We'll leave it. We're just gonna leave. We're gonna leave well enough alone for now.
Yo, I'm a little surprised between me and you that John Jellybean Benitez is just strolling in there all alone with his bags.
I thought he was wonderful. I'm
not saying he wasn't
very
wonderful.
open to me, and we thank Vic Latino for the invite for my opening slot there.
You're John Jellybean Benitez. You produced Madonna. Don't you have a little bit of an entourage, a foxy lady, a couple of your boys. I'm just saying, he's driving out in the middle of Long Island, up and down mountains, up these dark hills by himself.
He's an artist. He's a true artist.
All right.
He's a true artist. And we cleared up the Mary Wilson story about Holiday and how she turned down Holiday. And he even let me know that I had forgot a CD in the player when we climbed up the wonderful scaffolding that was the elevated tower to replicate the old elevated DJ booth at Studio 54, which turned out to be a scaffold with some wonderful fabric wrapped around it. It really looked good, and I really looked like a mad scientist up there. And there's a picture of it up on Facebook, on my website. Bobby put it up, where I really look like some kind of mad dictator with my
you
with
look
my LaLumia shades on, about to address my my loyal following in the universe. Oh, this is cool looking, huh? In a Stevie Wonder kind of way, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But
you were pretty high up there. That was pretty shaky.
I'm always pretty high up there.
Yeah.
But,
good thing you didn't fall down.
Exactly. You know, the higher they go, the quicker they fall. But I think we're having some influence with this talk show thing, too, because MTV, we were talking about MTV before, and MTV's the biggest grievance about MTV. And in this book, I haven't completed it yet, but it's the first 10 years of MTV, which leads right up to the real world, when MTV started moving away from music and towards non-music related things. And MTV is about to premiere something called Hip Hop POV, Point of View, which is going to be a talk show and a performance show related to hip hop. So kudos to the main MTV network, as opposed to MTV2, MTV3, MTV24, MTV to the fourth power, to actually be paying attention to music on the channel. And MTV's argument is that, which might be a rightfully so argument, they don't show videos anymore because when MTV first started, and I was hooked on MTV as much as anybody, and I would wait for Adam Ant or whoever I was into at that moment, or some of the Bowie stuff that was coming out in the 80s, and you would sit and you'd wait for your video to come on that was coming up, or the world premiere that was coming up, and you'd sit through the commercials, and MTV would make their money. But with the advent of the internet, and with the advent of YouTube, and the advent of Vivo, and all these different things, their argument is that anybody, a kid or a middle-aged person or whoever, that wants to see the new Lady Gaga video or Katy Perry or whatever can just go online at any moment and YouTube, see it and not have to wait. But I have a feeling, just as they said that TV would be eliminated by the internet, and TV's numbers are still quite good, I have to tell you. People still like to watch what they think everybody else is watching. They like to watch popular shows at the same time. It's the universal experience, which is why people still listen to radio, and radio is still doing fine. Z100, BLI, KTU, Party 105, which has refined its format to a more populist type of format. People like to hear the hits. They like to hear them and know that the guy down the block and somebody in their car and some kid going to sleep with the radio on, alongside the bed, and somebody that's having a party out in the backyard at the same time. They're all hearing that new tune or that older recurrent classic all at the same time. People like shared experiences. And so I think MTV would not be screwing up if they were to devote a chunk of time to at least brand new videos that maybe people weren't aware. Because if you're not aware that there's a new video to go hunting for, you're not going to go hunting for it. So they could at least do an exposure program of the brand new videos this week, and then you can go search for them on MTV.com or what have you. But I really think it's great that they would make a move of any kind back into music. And Katy Perry's got a 3D movie coming out, which I think is kind of interesting, that this 3D experience and concert films, which have, been around since the dawn of rock and roll, that Justin Bieber had one, and there was a Glee concert film, I think, in 3D that really bombed. That was terrible. I think the Bieber film did okay. And it just seems to be the thing now. There's a strong enough base of fans that people will go out and check this out in 3D. And an artist, a visual artist like Katy Perry, that could be kind of interesting. When is there going to be Strong Island 3D? Is there any plans for that I should know about?
We're working on 2D at the moment.
Okay.
When are we going to have a Jimmy LaLumia 3D?
I don't know. I think I am kind of 3D.
You are.
I think I kind of come towards you right out of the screen at times.
Sometimes
I look back at some of the stuff, some of the previous episodes, which you can see, by the way, all the previous episodes of Strong Island Scene, some of which are really, really intriguing. Collect them. Make a page, collect them. Maybe we'll do a page. You can see them all, and some of them are rather frightening. All
right, so that's youtube.com/Strong Island Radio. That's where you can view all the shows.
All the Strong Island shows. And for this particular show, Strong Island Scene, and you'll also see a menu with lots of all the other Strong Island attractions and what have you on there. Name That Tune is coming back. It's being revamped.
Is it really?
For TV. And I really think I want to, people are like, why don't you go on this show? Why don't you go on that show? And first of all, a star of my stature cannot just, go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's beneath me. It's just not something that an international underground star should necessarily be doing. But Name That Tune.
I see it.
Which is the story of my life. I think I could buy some stunning new outfits for a Psychotic Frogs reunion, or when we do the For DJs Only remix video, or one of those type of things. Look at how cool with the shades.
Yeah,
wow.
You're a star. Look at you.
Well, I know that. I certainly don't need you to tell me. But I appreciate it. But Name That Tune.
Yeah, I liked that when I was a kid. I was like, I could name that tune in 6 notes.
Was it on when you were a kid?
I must have been.
I think it goes back
reruns,
to the
maybe.
1950s.
I saw the reruns.
And I go back to the 1950s.
Hey, listen, that's what, when I was a kid, there was a lot of reruns of all the old shows. There wasn't all these new shows coming out.
All this newfangled nonsense, these kids nowadays.
Crazy crap.
All this crazy stuff, and I watch all of it. I DVR. I have 9,000 hours of stuff DVR'd. I can't get enough of anything. I DVR American Idol versus The Voice, which I think is wonderful. I don't know if you've seen that.
I like The Voice.
The Voice is amazing. And right after The Voice is Smash, which is a musical drama which deals with backstage showbiz stuff and competitiveness and who's trying to pull the rug out from under whose feet.
Drama.
Which is like Catherine McPhee's on there. She's amazing. My mom's favorite. She came in second on American Idol. She never really hit her stride. She's hitting her stride now because NBC owns Monday Night right now. The ratings they took over, they're really kicking butt with 2 hours of The Voice followed by Smash. They're really, really kicking some major ass there. And so music-related shows, I think it's really, really good for the music industry that you have The Voice, you have X Factor, you have American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, which is music-oriented, Glee, which is music-oriented, Smash, which is music-oriented. So, I mean,
a lot of music.
The way people are exposed to music changes, but lots of more opportunities that open up for songwriters, recording artists, and what have you. It's a music-driven world. People that appreciate music, you've got lots of opportunities. Speaking of Justin Bieber, since I mentioned his 3D movie, which is a success, his mom is writing a book.
Oh, whoopee.
A tell-all.
Tell-all.
Chapter 3 is the diaper changing.
I'm not interested.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And in related news, Lady Gaga has the biggest following on Twitter. How many Twitter followers do you think she has?
She's got millions.
How many?
Millions.
Give me a number.
A lot of millions.
Like, make an estimate.
8 million.
No.
5 million.
No.
4 million.
20 million followers.
20 million little monsters.
20 million followers on Twitter, which is such an amazing device for keeping in touch with a fan base, letting people know what you're doing. Those of you who are aspiring recording artists, who are not making full use of social media and self-promotion, let me tell you, do whatever you have to do. Get out there. Sell your ass the way Nathan sells hot dogs.
You have got to have a Facebook and a Twitter. You have got to have those two.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of things.
But you have to at least have those two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I agree. And speaking of that, you can follow us on Twitter at Strong Island NY and me personally at Bobby La Serra. This guy over here is at Jimmy LaLumia.
Yeah, I got a great Facebook. I'm on it. Whenever I'm off from my day job, I am just on Facebook constantly, letting the world know how amazingly fabulous I am. Yeah. I do, once again, want to bring to your attention this forthcoming Strong Island Rocks release, Jimmy LaLumia and the Psychotic Frogs 2.0 remastered, and edited. And what was edited was all my drunken 20-minute in-between song tirades, which makes available tracks that were not released on the original version.
Remastered, re-edited, and repackaged.
Repackaged. Mark Gady at Audio Cuisine did a tremendous job of putting it through all his phrasmostats, and so that sparks are flying off of it. We got the Max's reunion coming up in June, which we'll tell you more about, that I'll be emceeing at Bowery Electric. And I want to congratulate and welcome back one of someone else who used to play Max's and who actually got signed at Max's and has the #1 album in the country right now, Bruce Springsteen, with his Wrecking Ball. So,
you know, Bruce, I was never a big fan when I was younger.
Yeah.
But as I get older, I start to get more respect for him as an artist.
Yeah. I'm sure he's all excited about that.
Fuck you.
Take a number.
Fuck you and the boys.
but yeah, it's proof, again, as I said, that life begins at 60. He's got the #1 album in the country. He pushed Adele and dead old Whitney right out of the way. And it's #1 on iTunes right now. So God bless the seniors. Put your teeth back in, Bruce. Make another record.
Yeah, man. The seniors and the dead. They're taking over the charts.
Yeah, The Walking Dead. Look at the charts. That's what they're calling the Billboard chart this week. The Walking Dead. You know, like the TV series. And Madonna. Madonna is playing Yankee Stadium. You going to go?
No.
No. Well, somebody's going. And she's another Max's veteran, by the way.
I know. I
was playing Max's at the same time that I was playing Max's. And unfortunately, nobody really paid her any attention. So she's not too... You can get the book called Madonna by Andrew Morton, who also had written books on Princess Diana after she died, and Monica Lewinsky, who's famous for giving a blowjob to Bill Clinton. And in that book, I was interviewed about Madonna. What are you laughing about? It's the first time you ever heard about a blowjob?
Bill Clinton and the word blowjob just makes me laugh.
Yeah. Well, what can I tell you? Whatever works it for you. But yeah, in that book, I'm interviewed because I was... I guess rubbing shoulders with Madonna at the time. My big money line in that book was we had no idea who this chick was, and if we did, I'm sure we would have been nicer to her, because some of the stars of Max's during that period are wondering why she snubs people now or pretends that she doesn't know anybody. But she always had that kind of streak in her, because my friend Zecca and Sherry Beachfront were in a group called Get Wet, who was signed to Boardwalk Records. There was a big push on them. They were playing at the Ritz, which is now Webster Hall. And Madonna was nobody still. She had come out of being a rock person and was starting to make her dance records. She stood to the side of the stage the whole gig with her arms crossed, like shooting laser beams at the stage. And when Zecca was outside leaving the gig, she walked up to him on the sidewalk, walked right up to his face and said, "I'm going to be somebody and you're going to be nobody." So that's, you know, even before she had hit records and even before she had any kind of clout, she was already doing that thing, you know, which I think is a great line. I got to write that down and use that.
Well, you know what? Everything in this show tied together somehow. Because even with the Madonna, the Jelly Bean
Benitez, and
everything,
dead people, and iPads,
and old people,
maxi pads, and
everything. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. And Hunger Games is coming up. I don't know if you're a fan of these kind of movies that, like the Twilight saga is just
No.
ending with all the vampires and stuff. And so The Hunger Games is coming out, which will keep that pop culture drumbeat going. It's basically about a future world where people have to fight for food. Another one of those. The world is America no
interesting.
longer exists. And,
Very interesting.
So there's all kinds of neat stuff coming up. We'll be sure to report on all of it. We still have 5 minutes left. So why don't you?
We don't have 5 minutes left.
We don't.
We have another show coming in.
Oh, really?
So we gotta
Okay.
end a little earlier. So,
You know. Okay. So
what's your
just
last minute.
just pull the fucking rug out from underneath me while you're at it. Hi, gorgeous. How are you? Hello. Yeah, we got some showbiz folks
Yeah,
about
we
to
have,
join us.
Christy Couture in the building. We also have Andrew Mallory in the building.
Very good. Very cool. I kept the seat warm for you. You'll find out. But, all right. So what time is it? Is it time to say Arrivederci, baby?
It's 8:56, so we got to close it up for the night.
All right. So we're going to close it up for the night. We want to thank all the stars that have provided us with material for talking about all the people that conveniently died, which gave us about 20 minutes at the beginning. Robin, come forward and tell us all about the relationship with Whitney. Inquiring minds want to know. And we'll see you in about a month from now
Yep.
on Strong Island Scene. I'm LaLumia. This is La Serra. Watch this later on YouTube, where
That's
the
right.
numbers are just astounding.
That's right. All right. So StrongIsland.com. You watch Strong Island Scene. Stay tuned. We have housework coming up with Christy Couture, Jose and Mr. Lights. We have Sin Morena, right?
What do you mean, right? You don't
Moreno?
know?
Morera.
Jesus Christ, lay off the pot. All right. So anyway, that's another show, folks. We hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, well, I'm not getting paid anyway, so who gives a fuck? And thank you. We'll see you again in April. No, I am really. I'm making a fortune. Thank you, Bobby. It's always a
All
pleasure.
right, cool. We out. Strong Island.
Now he's throwing me out the fucking door. Okay, gotta go.